whoa, 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 yeah, we are in the place of yeah, 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 yeah.
في الأغاني.
whoa, 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 yeah, we are bringing the taste of yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the third podcast of Best Virtual Summit. I'm Rita and I will be your facilitator for tonight. Today's theme is career support, and I have with me four amazing guests and truly experts on this field. So, without much further ado, let's meet them. And Gabor, you can go first.
First,
Welcome to the
hello
third.
everybody. I hope I have sound. Anyway, thanks for inviting me to be here today. And as it was said, that my name is Gabor. My name is Gabor Ersek. I'm from Hungary. I was studying in the Budapest University of Technology and Economics, and I was member of the LBG as well. So, beside being a member, I was working in fundraising both in local and international level. And this is how I got in contact with the field of career support in Best. I was working as BCDFR coordinator, and somehow I ended up being the treasurer of the 31st International Board of Best, known as the Lantern.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your introduction, Gabor. Katerina?
Yeah, thank you also for inviting me. My name is Katarina Jojic. I come from Serbia. I finished molecular biology at the University of Belgrade, and I was also a member of the local group of BEST in Belgrade. My path in career support started in fundraising at the local level and also being the treasurer in the local board. And on the international level, I was the Best Career Day coordinator, and after that, I became the corporate relations department coordinator. So,
Amazing, amazing path. And now we'll go to Walid.
All right. Good evening, fellas. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Actually, we were having so much fun before we went live, but I hope we continue to have fun in this hour. My name is Walid, and I'm from LBG Torino, Polytechnic di Torino. And the first way I got in touch with career support was basically by doing fundraising in my local group support. And I was trying to have good raising. So I was trying to gather food for some of our events. And then I somehow started to collaborate with companies, initiate cooperation with, the city, the university. And then somehow I got also to be the treasurer of the 32nd International Board of Best. And now I'm here doing Best Virtual Summit.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. And last but not least, we'll go to Fabrizio.
Thank you, Rita, and thank you for inviting me. And hello to everybody. I'm Fabrizio, and I study mathematical engineering in the University of Naples, Federico II of Naples. And in my path in BEST, locally, in my local group, I was vice president for human resources. Then I shift my focus on international level. Firstly, being part of the European Best Engineering competition, so EBIC fundraising team, then coordinating this team the following year, and right now I just got elected as corporate relations partner coordinator.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for this introduction. I see some similar paths, and some of them are also quite unique. I guess every path has its own kind of beauty and uniqueness. So, taking into account all these paths that you had and all the work that you carried out in this area, how did it impacted your personal life?
I can start if you want.
Yes.
I would say it impacted in different levels. On a first level, first of all, it helped me to be more professional also when I interact with adults, let's say. So when people that are already working, they have a different approach maybe from us as students. And by being in touch with companies and company representatives, I learned how to be more professional and to introduce myself in a more professional way. Also, it helped me by managing a team and also interacting with these companies. It shifted a lot my focus towards their needs, so other people needs, and this is something that works, of course, in terms of fundraising and career support in general, but also with personal communication. So it helped me a lot. And last but not least, I would say that it helped me a lot also in terms of time management and efficiency. Just to give some example, When I joined Best 2 years and a half ago, when I needed to write an email, my first email, I think it took me probably 45 minutes because I wanted everything to be perfect and all the letters needed to be in the perfect point and the colors and everything. And right now it takes me way less time in order to write a satisfying email, let's say.
Thank you so much. And now, Gabor, would you like to share with us the impact in your personal life?
Sure. So the first of all, one really major thing I got as an impact is meeting the people who are also working in this field. It was really interesting and really cool experience. And also on the more technical side, it was a really huge benefit on my life to know how to run a service providing but still non-profit organization, and also get to know institutions both in the international and local or national level. And as Fabri said, that know how to work with companies, how to understand their needs, and in general how to conduct any business-to-business communication.
Thank you so much. Katerina?
So yeah, for me, as for everyone else, it really did impact in my personal life, especially in the time when I was a coordinator. I learned how to manage and follow different projects, like more of them in the same time. Also communicate with a lot of different people with a lot of different backgrounds, which actually also helps me in pursuit of my PhD degree. So you never know when some skills you will actually need. And also by being active in Best, I met a lot of wonderful people, which who I am in contact still.
Thank you so much. And Walid?
Yeah, I think most people in Best would agree about how Best impacted their life, and you can find common aspects like how they met wonderful people, how they learned to be more professional, how they learned to do more things, and so on. I think what would summarize my experience is a term that one of my friends in Torino, Fernando Zarra, uses, which is that Best is a life accelerator. You get, like, in a couple of years to experience so many things that you would never imagine were even possible. You get to travel. For example, Gabor can relate to this because we were in the international board, both of us. You get to travel to 30 plus countries in 1 year. You get to meet hundreds, if not thousands, of people who are different from you, who have a different perspective on things. So I think the human element of meeting new people and meeting people who are different from you, who are fundamentally different, but are willing to open up and showing you another point of view, and you are willing to embrace this new, let's say, viewpoint, right? So beside all, like, meeting all these people, I think Best is providing you a safe space and providing all of us a safe space to experiment and to do new things. If you think, for example, about this very meeting, we're having all 5 of us are in 5 different countries, and we are going to have this podcast. But like, there was no one who told us to do this. It was kind of even like spontaneous, and Best gives us the chance to try to do the very first podcast of Best, right? So I think, in summary, Best to me is simply a life accelerator that in few years gave me an experience that is worth lifetime, in a sense.
Amazing, amazing. And I guess all the people that are listening will agree that you all have these amazing histories, and I'm guessing that even more stories. If we could be here for 5 hours, we'll be talking and having lots of fun and sharing. And since you have this really amazing and unique experience, I would also like to say to everyone that is listening to us, if you have any questions to our speakers, feel free to write them in the either YouTube or Facebook, and they will answer you in the end. And also, to give a little bit of context to everyone that is listening to us, I will just briefly say the history of career support in BEST, just to make everyone well in the same page. So around 1997, it was created a support group for BEST. This group aimed to cooperate closely with companies. The importance of this area became more and more notable, giving the opportunity to create a long-lasting and truly focused team. It was called at the time the Fin team. This was back in 2005. 2005, as all organization evolved into a new work methodology, so did this team. And so in 2016, Fin team transitioned from a committee to a department, and this was the corporate relations department. This department has a purpose to provide financial resources for the organization through corporate fundraising so it can exist and reach its goals. And so now that I believe that we are all in the same page and we all know what we are like, what is the subject that we are talking, I have some questions for you as well. So, in which ways do you think BEST is helping students in their future careers? And Walid, you may start. You are muted, Walid.
Pardon, I was saying, in which ways?
In which ways do you think BEST is helping students in their future careers?
Okay. I think BEST is not only helping people in, I mean, like young people in their future careers, but they are helping them generally in, being proactive citizens by giving them this safe environment I was mentioning before, in which people can actually be entrepreneurs. BEST encourages people to do things. So I think BEST, first of all, helps all its volunteers to be more proactive, willing to experiment new things, willing to, push their boundaries and get out of the comfort zone. As well as we have this component of BEST, which is the career support, in which we get people in touch with companies, and we get also companies in touch with people. So I think BEST is doing this generous work of that many universities may do or may not do. This generous work of connecting with companies and helping people have a glimpse of what it means to be in a company through the different services we provide, for example, competitions, courses, and so on, but also through direct recruitment, for example, through our platform, the BCC, or through like job fairs, live job fairs. So I think there are many ways BEST is helping students connect with companies, either direct or indirect. But just by being in BEST, that's already a great push for people's careers.
Thank you for your insight. Gabor?
Okay. So what I would add also to the things Walid already mentioned, that besides job fairs and helping people to find their companies, dream companies, and helping companies to find their people, I would emphasize a little bit the work what we do on giving skills to developing people, like either being an external student or a member of the organization, the customer, let's call it that. The students are coming to us, and they can learn how to act in certain situations, for example, in an interview, or how to call a company, how to call an HR or marketing manager, but also learn, for example, leadership skills. They also have the chance to experience what does it mean to be a diverse team, like what does it mean to lead a team of 4 or 5 different nationalities who are eventually be in 4 or 5 different time zones as well. And with all of this, they can get out from the university, not just with a degree, but also in a soft skill set, which can accelerate their rise in the corporate ladder as well.
Thank you, Gabor. And Katerina?
Yeah, I have to add, I had to agree that through our services or being a member of the organization, people are getting a lot of different set of skills that they would not get usually in a formal university setting, at least in most countries of Europe. Because if you also survey the students, it's the answers that you get is most like the university or college does not prepare them for life, so to say. Theoretical knowledge is important, of course, but when you go to have a proper job, you work in a company, there is this thing that practical knowledge is very important, and you will need to also have really different set of skills that we also call soft skills. Project management, leadership, communication, conflict solving, and so on. That is actually quite important. And sometimes even recruiters are wanting the people to already like have a bit of these kind of skills.
Thank you so much, Katerina. And now Fabrizio.
It's complicated to say something more to what has already been said. I would just like to underline, beside the skills that we can acquire that and best can help us to acquire. We also had the podcast a few days ago on complementary education, in which it was talked a lot about it. How with best we can really broaden our horizons, because as also what Walid was saying, we have the possibility to meet so many people, to get in touch, to actually see so many different perspectives and points of view, not only from the students, only also while traveling, and we can meet other people apart from the students. So by this, we can really broaden our horizons and have a larger perspective once we get in touch with companies.
Yes, thank you so much. I can see that we can all agree that not only on the career support area, that the work where you mostly work, where you mainly work, but all as in a whole, as in BEST, we have a lot of opportunities to external students. Of course, for our members that can, well, be more proactive and receiving firsthand these opportunities kind of have like a double effect. But as in a whole, there are a lot of opportunities, and we really hope our external students take the most advantage of it. And now that we can, like we almost saw like the main picture of PES and the main picture of this area, I would like for us to now go a little bit more in the theme of the pandemic situation. So I would like to ask you, how do you think this pandemic will affect our services, and in specifically the career support one? And Katerina, you may start.
I think that yeah, there will generally be a shift in the way that work is done, because everything is kind of moving online, work from home. There are especially like big tech companies that, at least in USA, at least until the beginning of the year or maybe even longer, they will work from home basically. So I think there will be definitely a shift even to our services, maybe a bit more online, what we're also trying with this, doing with this Best Future Summit, and the idea of it, maybe to webinars or online trainings or something like that. And also what I think it might happen, the stakeholders, mainly I think universities and companies, might think of live events, basically something like a job fair where you have a bunch of people together in one room. They might not see them as something very necessary. And this is maybe in the short term, but it maybe also change quite a lot in future a bit. But yeah, we will see.
Yes, thank you, Katerina. And now Walid.
Right. I'm personally of the idea that big challenges like a pandemic are probably the best thing that happens to some organizations, of course. Some organizations are super attached to their, let's say, own practices, that they forget to innovate. And sometimes there is a need of a big crisis or a big hit to help organizations evolve. BEST, similar to any other civil society, is an organization that has a history, has like a working method and so on. And I think with this pandemic, we started to think differently. We started to see, okay, let's just not do things as we have always done. Maybe let's try something new. Let's risk. So I think the biggest impact that this pandemic is having on our services is that, and specifically career support, that is telling to everyone that what used to work not necessarily will work anymore, and there is a new normal, and you need to adapt to it. Everyone is adapting, you too. And I think in best, given our culture of learning and improvement, we are having a competitive edge of not only following what are the changes that are happening, but also sometimes leading in and leaning in as a youth organization and saying, maybe we have a solution, maybe we can be part of whatever is needed to return or recover as Europe or as countries or as universities or as individuals even. So I think this is the nicest, let's say, impact that the pandemic is having on our services. And what will our services look like is something probably that we don't even know right now. It will still evolve, and probably the people who are active right now in BEST and the generations coming after us, they will be the ones who are defining what is next, and it's going to be marvelous. I have a sense.
Thank you so much, Walid. And talking about the future generations, we go to Fabrizio.
Yes, to add on that, it's pretty obvious that we're all spending much more time connected with our laptops, with our mobiles, connected with the video calls, and also with the Best Virtual Summit as we're doing right now. As a consequence, I see two different points of view. On one hand, we have that by that we need and we are actually having an improvement of our services and our platforms, and these may have as a consequence an increase of user friendliness, for example, from our platforms themselves. On the other hand, as much as we are connected and we keep on being connected, we are also realizing how much important it is to be connected in terms of human interaction and in terms of live interaction, which means beside having this focus that we're currently having, I think that also in general, not only as best, but also as a general approach and as a general approach, much more importance will be given to the human interaction, such as the coffee that we can have together, or just the chili chat that can bring to new ideas, as the Best Virtual Summit can be as an example, or different kinds of ideas that can actually bring to new development and new discourse.
Thank you, Fabrizio. And last but not least, Gabor.
Let me be a little bit more harsh on the topic, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to be the attorney of the devil, and I completely agree with all of the points were said, and also like I do like to see the enthusiasm regarding the changes, as it was said that every change is also a possibility and an opportunity. What I see, it's gonna be a little bit of harsh market evaluation, let's call it like that, because students are gonna choose in the future, and the students will have tons of options, and this is what we need to be prepared to, that in terms of career support, that there are two options to look for, from the simple Google search to a company website to continuous rain of advertisement via YouTube, so Facebook or Instagram. But what I can see that we as an organization really need to think about is like how we are actually develop people. What is the content we are giving to them? Because all of these things like online or live interactions, podcasts, webinars, job fairs are just tools. But what is the actual content we are giving to people? Like what is that plus which our career support can bring? And this is gonna be evaluated, I think, in the midterm, and in the long term, I would say that if us best as a student organization can figure out innovative ideas, new ideas, and implement them really quickly, so don't need to conduct 4-5 months of preparation and analysis, like in a huge organization which needs to take care of millions of euros, we might have some kind of competitive advantage. because we are operating on the voluntary basis of people who wants to do.
Well, thank you so much, Gabor, and it's really interesting to see these 2 points of view. I would say, of course, like innovation, it's really must too in our organization. Well, and it should be in every organization and in every company. And this pandemic, yes, Wally, do you want to add something? Yes,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I just like want to add something on what Gabor mentioned, which is the competition. I personally view competition as necessary. I don't view it necessarily as a threat, because if a competition, makes our role obsolete, it means that basically what we were doing was not needed anymore. So I generally think that yes, students will have more options of things, to go to. For example, if they want to connect with companies, they have LinkedIn. We have a similar tool to LinkedIn. We have Best Career Center, right? However, probably LinkedIn is way stronger than ours, also because they are a company that puts way more money in developing the service, right? Even though we had the idea of the service back at the like in the 90s. But I think that competition is helpful for us to tell us, okay, that's what you are good at, that's what you are not good at. Focus on what is your competitive advantage and help make something special for people.
Thank you so much, Wally, for this also interesting point of view, and it's really amazing to see this conversation. And I think just in this topic we could spend here hours and hours, but I think we can also maybe arrange a second podcast on these themes. Who knows? And if our listeners want. And well, of course, this pandemic kind of forced this innovation and these changes in our services. And well, but like this pandemic brought this, but the society, our society, and consequently our stakeholders, their needs change every day. And even now, like in our era and in this technology era, they change like in every second almost, if we can say it. So I would like to ask you as well, how do you think best can align its work with these society changes, like the pandemic, but also with the upcoming ones and the constantly changing society needs? And Gabor, you may start.
Thank you. How I see this point, and let me a little bit link back to the adaptability of the organization, because best has the value of flexibility. I think that this is the way to go, and this is the key how we can align ourselves to see around us, because everybody can ask their friends, dude, bro, what do you struggle with when you are trying to apply to a company? Depending on their answers, we can figure out where to go and how to go. Like, for example, why I love the idea of this kind of summit and podcasts and informal talks, even with leaders of European companies or European organizations, because it can show to people like how and what kind of how they can cope with the daily struggles, even if they are on a different leadership level of any other companies. And in general, if we can target in this way, in this really personal type of in a really personal way of tackling these problems, I do think that we can align ourselves to the modern problem of the society.
Thank you, Gabor and Katerina.
Well, I don't have like much different to say from Gabor. It's mostly, I think, what will be crucial is the ability to change and to switch up things and to innovate in a short span of time. That would be quite crucial. The method or how to be done, I'm not quite sure, so I'm not that much involved right now. But yeah, I think this will be crucial things to have in mind. How it is done, I think it will depend on the situation.
Thank you, Katarina. And now Walid.
So I think that we as an organization, there is something that we have for many years been not able to do, which is uh, decentralizing the way we collect and we interact with people and get their feedback and get their knowledge and adapt our services to what they want. So I think if we want to adapt our services to society in the upcoming months and years, we need to give value again to the fact that we have 4,000 active volunteers who are right now on the ground in 97 universities all over Europe. And these people, they have opinions. These people, they have their insights, their experiences. They interact with other people. So there is something really powerful about us that we need to use more, which is, by the way, not that easy. I think we as BEST still have a very nice governance. We have, a very active, we are a very active by all means NGO that is way beyond, in my opinion, way beyond marvelous. But still, we could use more having people. What do they want right now? Having people detect what other students want right now and what different universities want, and then adapt to it quickly in fast cycles of agile development in a sense of new services. So I think there is no one formula that fits all. There will be more special approaches, and there needs to be more special approaches depending on the geography where we are.
Thank you, Walid. And last, Fabrizio.
Thank you. I completely agree, first of all, with what has been said so far. And I think that as best we have the luck, and it's also a responsibility to be somewhere in the middle between university and the companies. And we try and drive the students from the university to the companies. This means that we have the opportunity to listen to both sides and to actually the three sides of them: the universities, the students, and the companies themselves, to understand what are their current needs and to understand how they're changing in times and adapting their own needs and their own ways of working to the current times, and also in terms of foreseeing the future times. And by having access to this kind of knowledge, to this piece of information, we can provide these and help and support the students to this shift of focus, to this shift of competencies, to this new acquirement of new skills and competencies. Just to sum it up a little bit, what we can do is actually observe, foresee, and be ready and prepare also the students for the future.
Okay, thank you all. I can see that there is here a pattern of improving the knowledge that we have throughout our big network, like Walid and Gabor said, and also we should have more this agile way of acting and this agile way of doing things. And Walid wants to add something. Go ahead.
Yeah, like one thing I want to add, and I think we should focus on it more, is the co-creation and co-development of services. So instead of creating something and then offering to companies, which happens to be very valuable most of the time. I mean, for 30 years we have been doing that. Is actually, I think the time has come for us to sit down at the table with with companies, with universities, with the students, and co-create something together, and not necessarily us create something and then offering to them. And I think many partners would be willing to do so, starting from the partners of this very summit.
Thank you, Walid. And I think this can also be a really good, a really good thing for all our listeners that are active members in BEST to listen and to try to think on this, reflect a little bit on your answers, and even try to try to help our organization change and also try to help on this co-collaboration of services. And now I have one more question that this can be a little bit more a trickier one, but I would like to ask you if you do envision any change in BEST structure related to career support. And I would like to start with Gabor.
Oh, All right. So yeah, indeed, this is really the tricky question, and it's has been a hot topic for I don't know how many years. For me personally, it is more important if the system works or not. So if we have people who fundraise, if we have people who are eager to do things, I would believe they would more or less do in whatever system they are working in. If put it in a more technical way, that the system should follow the organizational processes and not the organizational processes should be squeezed into a system. How it was said by one of my fellow lantern back then when we were in board summer meeting. So how I see right now that with the new program which was initiated not so long ago, that we have people who take care of the system, and of course it was really beneficial, especially on the IT side of career support, to have somebody fundraiser can turn to. And I do think with all of this, I don't see any change in the near future.
Okay, thank you so much, Gabor. Katerina?
Uh, so I think what we need to be aware of if we want to get anything to change, we need to be aware of what actually the students want from us, especially like in regards of career support, what they're actually looking for um, in order to adjust maybe our services, and also towards companies or universities to have a bit of a more personalized approach and what we are offering to them, or what they actually really want. So this is not just a story according to the pandemic, but yeah, just an opinion to general, because pandemic is something that happened pretty suddenly. So yeah.
Thank you, Katerina. And now Wally.
I don't have an opinion on the matter.
Okay, thank you, Wally. And now Fabrizio.
Sorry to interrupt, but this is something I just cannot believe in.
Okay. I mean, for me, it works. And for me, there is no need when, something allows anyone who wants to do anything invest. I mean, it's a working system. So if someone wants to initiate something, we have the, like the means for people to initiate. If, the very youngest volunteer of best who just joined has an idea of a project and wants to, have it achieved, they have the means to achieve so. If we want to change something, we have the means to achieve so, and we are a pretty democratic organization. So like in my opinion, there is no need for structural changes and so on. I think the only need there is for us to focus less on talking about structural changes and focus more on actually doing things within the structure we have, or slightly pushing it whenever it needed.
Thank you, Walid. And Fabrizio?
Thank you. Again, I don't think there is much more to add on that. From my point of view, what we usually do is adapting to the current situation. And if currently the system works, I don't see the need of changing the structure. If in the future we may figure out that there is this need, then yes, maybe it can happen. It could happen, but it's not something that I see as necessary at the moment. So that is, as a short answer, not really.
Okay, thank you for your opinion. And as it was also mentioned, we have a really good approach in BEST that when any volunteer or even any student that has an idea can approach us as BEST and try to go further with that idea, with that dream. So I also encourage to all the listeners that are here today, if you have any idea, doesn't matter if you are a member of our organization or if you are a student, reach out to us. And when I say well to us, try to find the most common mean. You can just search for our website. Try to reach out for us with your ideas, with your dreams, with your expectations, and I am sure that everyone here and everyone that is part of the organization will be really happy to hear it and happy to help you pursue it. And before we will go to any of our questions from the audience, I have one more for you, and it's more like in an inspirational way. I would like for all of you to share one personal, insightful, and impactful moment of your life where career support was the key to success. And I really hope that our listeners can see just how much it can mean to look for these extracurricular activities and opportunities that we all already mentioned here. And Fabrizio, you may start.
Thank you again. From my point of view, I can't really talk at the moment about success because by being still a student, I probably, hopefully, I will be able to reach something that can be fed as success in the future. What I can share is that by doing these, as I was saying also at the beginning in one of the other questions, we had the chance, and personally I had the chance to develop my skills also in terms of communication and in terms of self-confidence. And these has consequences in all over in my life by relating with my family, with my friends, but also in the university. Just to give an example, talking with the professors, with my teachers is way easier now that I know how to relate and better communicate with people as also I was saying earlier, in a more professional way, but also in a more confidential way. And just in general, this is something that turns out useful because it actually gives you much more tools, much more funny moments, and also satisfactory moments.
Thank you so much, Fabrizio. Gabor?
Sorry,
Oh,
I
yes,
just have
Wally?
I just have a quick comment. I have a quick comment because Fabrizio said that I cannot talk about success now because I'm still a student. Well, I think even though he's still a student, he's a pretty successful person because since I knew him and we worked on project together, this guy just nailed every project and kicked asses everywhere. So I think he's pretty successful, but he's just humble. Fabrizio, stop being too humble.
I blush. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this praise. And now we go to Gabor.
I feel bad to stop this conversation between these remarkable gentlemen. But what I would say that for me personally, knowing how grants and business to business related communication work, it helps me a lot right now. I'm a PhD student right now in the University of Groningen, and I'm working on an industrial project, and I need to somehow manage to take into consideration industrial and academic aspects of my work, and how to put these two separated words together. All the skills I got from BEST, time management, how to take care of my communication, how to give feedback, etc. They really helped me to obtain, let's call it success, but yeah, it makes my life easier.
Thank you so much. And now we go to Katerina.
For me, the impact wasn't also like so much direct, because I also pursued an academic path, though I don't have that much of a connection with the industry. So it's mostly like really research based in academia, but I think that it makes me aware later of the recruiting possibilities and what possibilities I have when I finish my PhD and I want to move on maybe to industry or some other types of career than just academia. So yeah, it just makes me more aware of this kind of stuff and how it goes with the recruitments and how companies think. And yeah, in terms of the skills, as I mentioned earlier, and also everyone else mentioned, time management, leadership, project management, and so on, and to like communicate on a more of a business level with people.
Thank you, Katerina. And now we have Wally.
Now you have me. Um, I think that everything that was mentioned before about you have the ability to connect with companies. Like like how to write better emails. How to be more professional, communication skills, time management, and so on. I think this is the very obvious, and to me, they are not even the most impactful. These are things that people get, which are very appreciated by companies, and we heard today from many keynote speakers about these type of skills that are needed in today's market and everything. But I think the most important success I got from working on career support and best, which is basically fundraising, is the fact that I learned that I'm not doing things per se, like I'm not communicating with a company per se, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying first of all to connect a company with students and connect students with their future employers. So basically help them bridge their career and their future. On the other side, I'm trying also, like, my work as a treasurer is to get resources for this, hundreds of thousands of euros that we can use to make all this impact that we are trying to do. So like for me, it's not about the numbers or about, this, like for me, they are visible but superficial, but it's mostly about the fact that I learn to see, I learn to understand the person in front of me, whether this person is just a student looking to improve their, their career prospect, or a company that is looking to connect with employees or people that join their company and help make the company have a better impact on society, right? So I think that was the most impactful thing that happened to me in Best, which is I learned that I need to see people from different perspectives. And yeah, someone is
Amazing.
making a comment. I learned also to make reimbursements.
Well, it's always amazing skills. And thank you so much for sharing these really also personal experiences and these amazing stories that you have, all of your opinions. I will say one more time to all our listeners before, since we are almost finishing. If you guys have any questions to our really amazing speakers, don't be shy and just ask. I'm seeing here there are quite some Wally fans watching us, so you may have some questions for you. And while we are giving time to our listeners, if any of you guys wants to say one last remark, one last thing, one last inspiring moment, I highly encourage you to share it. So if you guys want to share something.
um, yeah, maybe in the meanwhile we're receiving questions. I want to share something. Uh, I just like want to, from someone who has been in Best, for like a few years, like for 40 years or so. If someone is watching us right now and that person just happens to be on YouTube or on Facebook by chance, right? And that person is a student of any of the universities where we are and could join us as volunteers, it's pretty impressive to me to know that if that person decides to join Best today, that person has the power to change things in a couple of months. That person has the power to, have a network that is supportive, that is an environment that, encourages creativity, encourages actions, encourages even crazy ideas. For example, I can share my experience. The idea of the summit itself, when you say we want to organize a summit in a month or in 5 weeks, because that's the latest we can organize because students have exams and so on. And then you find there are like tens of people telling, okay, let's accept the challenge and do it. That's pretty impressive as an experience for myself and for everyone who's part of this. So I think if anyone is lucky enough to have happened to pass by our modest YouTube video or Facebook video and wants to join Best, I think that probably is one of the best things that could ever happen to them.
Thank you so much, Wally. Thank you for these amazing words. I can also see that this podcast is also a good way to our recruitment strategies. So I think we really should continue it with this type. Does anyone of wants to share something more?
Yeah, can I
Yes.
just add something? So I want to add, so it's really important to work on yourself and improve, although everyone is talking about this self-improvement and very often, and sometimes it's everyone is throwing that word around, but you need to be prepared to recognize your mistakes and be prepared to work hard on yourself, because yeah, that will definitely pay off in your life. So yeah, and you will other people will notice the change, but also you yourself will, which is quite important. It's a good feeling.
Thank you so much for your words, Katerina. Truly inspiring. And actually, we already have some questions, but before we answer them, if Fabrizio or Gabor wants to add something, and then we'll go to the questions.
I would like to add, it is quite in line with what Katarina and Walid were saying. I think that one of the things that I prefer the most about best is that best is the perfect environment to make mistakes. So if you have any ideas, as Walid was saying, you have the perfect environment to actually implement those ideas and receive the support for them. And also, it is the perfect environment to fail with those ideas or in other fields, because this is the situation. These are the people that provides you constructive feedback, that helps you and that support you in order to not fail again, in order to make new mistakes, the same mistake again. And so that now we're students, now we're doing this, now we're making these mistakes, but in the future, we will be able to not make these mistakes. And not only that, we will hopefully also be able to explain other people how to not make these mistakes. And this is something that, if we see that as a chain, is something that really makes a difference on a huge level.
Thank you so much, Fabrizio. It's truly indeed, I can really review on what you said, that best it's like this platform where we can explore and discover our interests, and really, well, we can make mistakes here so we don't make them later on. And last but not least, Gabor.
Yes, I cannot agree more that happy mistakes are quite wonderful things. And what I would add that, except that I got a comment that if you're a treasurer, be really careful with your mistakes, because it can cost you quite a lot of years in wonderful places in Belgium. But what I wanted to add to this, that there are people who are watching this and getting. If you're gonna have,
Okay.
most of the cases, people follow up ideas based on your ideas, and everybody gonna fight for their idea. Any other people who are challenging your idea as a threat, but as any kind of opportunity to create something even better, what you in your mind in the first place.
Okay, thank you. There some parts that your voice was lagging a little bit, but I think we could hear the general point. Thank you. And now we'll go to our questions. Well, we have here one that I think it's as well one for we can all laugh, and it's for Gabor. And Gabor, who has the best French accent?
I would say Valentin.
Thank you. And
But Valentin, sorry, but Valentin doesn't have a very French accent. Like, he learned in best how to, hide it a bit.
Sorry, Walid, but I met him in his very first international event, and it was tough.
When he was not still the best. Okay.
Thank you. And now we have one more question that is, you are all among the most successful fundraisers of PES in the past few years. What was the most fun you ever had as a fundraiser? You may need to think a little bit, since I really believe that we have all of these funny moments. But if anyone wants to share, yeah.
I can start. It is probably the first time I managed to fundraise a partnership on an international level. I was in Erasmus, I was abroad, and I was going around in the streets with some friends of mine. And all of a sudden, after probably weeks of communication, I received this phone call where the company told me that they accepted the partnership. And I just remember that I was so happy that I was like, my friends, they were a little bit far from me, and because I needed to talk silently at the mobile. And as soon as they said yes, I was just jumping around this square all by myself, just screaming, they said yes, they said yes, they said yes, looking like I was getting married with someone. And these friends looking really weirdly at me, and also other people looking weirdly at me. But beside that, I really remind that as a funny and really happy moment.
Thank you, Fabrizio. I can really believe that it was a really happy moment for you, and congrats, of course. Who wants to share more?
May I?
Yes.
For me, all the internal working events, when we finally got together and fundraised together. And when we were going through the company list, and like some people recognize best because they had partnership before, or some people showing interest to develop a collaboration, and especially the team buildings between the fundraisers. They were really an awesome experience.
Thank you so much, Gabor. And wants to share more?
I can go, but this is not like during the process itself when I was calling company, but it was during CRD, short intensive training, that I mean, it was funny. I suddenly lost my voice, got sick or something, but I wasn't feeling sick, but it just, I just lost my voice completely. I could not speak for 2 or 3 days or something properly. Like nothing was, like my voice was not coming out. And then, I could not basically call properly because first of all, they would not hear me. And when I started to get back the voice a bit, it was sounding completely different. And it was scary. So everyone was like, well, we don't want you to scare companies. So that was a bit annoying, but yeah, it was funny.
Yeah. I can imagine that even now that time has passed seems even more funny. And last but not least, Wally?
We can agree that it's very fun when you get to make a partnership and sign a contract, and then you see that you manage to make a partnership. I think treasurers are happy about that. But I think the most fun I ever had was not actually about doing fundraising with companies, but was about recruiting the current CRD coordinator, Valentin. We were in Prague randomly, and we were just like met. We didn't know each other before. We were going to a summer course together. And then we went to this fake Eiffel Tower. I don't know like if you guys know it, but we went there. And then I challenged Valentin. I told him, what do you think about getting up there? And he said, like it costs 10 to 15 euros or so. I told him we don't have to pay money. We have to convince the guy that we need to go up there, and we have to find a story that allows us to get inside there. So I told him, okay, what about this story? Listen, what if you go there and tell them that you are a blogger, you are a traveler who travels the world, and gets to show the nice spots about each country, right? To show their culture, which is actually true. Like he travels and he gets to know the culture, and then he shows it. So I told him to go and do it, and then he went with another guy to do it. And I was surprised when he actually managed to do it, and then he got upstairs and he waved from him. So this for me was surprising, that sometimes we are so afraid of rejection, and something that is completely dumb, like going and convincing a guy to get inside a museum for free, which is actually possible. So I think this was the most fun we had. And after that, Valentin went back to Lyon, and then he joined Best, and we have him here.
Amazing.
Some other fun stories are not to be disclosed.
Amazing story, and we can also see that how this career support expertise can come in handy with recruitment expertise as well for Best. We have one more question from our listeners, which is the advice or suggestion you'll give to a bestie who is up to start on the fundraising world? Maybe take a little bit time to think.
Yeah, I can start. I can go on. So I would say don't be afraid. Everything is practice. Of course, the first calls might be a bit awkward whenever if you're calling on the local level or like maybe even in English. It can be, but you just need to do it and make mistakes, learn out of them, ask for help if needed, and yeah, it's basically through practice you're getting the experience that you need to become a successful fundraiser.
Thank you, Katarina. Thank you. The practice always makes like our biggest triumph. And who wants to share a little bit more?
You can.
Yeah.
I would say two things. On one hand, wait and hope for as many no's as possible, because as many no's as you collect, that closer you are getting to the first yes or to the next yes. On the other hand, it's not much about talking, rather than learning how to listen on the other side.
Thank you. Sometimes it's complicated to be like an active listener. I can speak for myself that I really like to talk. So, and who wants to share more?
I don't know like if I can give an advice, but I think one of the perks of being fundraisers in general is dealing with the fear of rejection, which is something that we all have. And being a fundraiser is something that helps you overcome your fear of rejection. Because I think every opportunity lies on the other side of fear, generally, fear of rejection or fear of anything. So when you're a fundraiser and you try it and you get rejected once, twice, 100 times, I think it's fun. It's okay. It's part of the process. You learn how to deal with it. So my opinion is not to be afraid of rejection and actually embrace rejection.
Thank you so much. Gabor, do you want to share something?
Yeah, I would add that when you start, the very first thing, convince yourself that you are transmitting a value. So if you convince yourself how good is your product or service, then it's way easier to convince other people about it as well.
Because you actually are transmitting value, like to be clear.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, we don't have any more questions from our listeners, and we are reaching 1 hour of this podcast, well, of this amazing conversation and discussion. I hope everyone that is listening to us enjoyed as much as I did. I really think you were really inspired. You are truly some best celebrities and best stars in the career support area. And I hope everyone really liked it and enjoyed this hour with us. I also want to say that we still have more days of this Best Virtual Summit upcoming. In the next days, we'll have the topic of the Sustainable Development Goals, also a really interesting one. And we'll also have a case study, and we'll also have one more podcast edition. So to everyone that is listening to us, stay tuned, go on our social media and subscribe to the all activities. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.